We are going to get started. Hello, my name is Jody Krainer, and I'm with Wisconsin Alzheimer's Institute. I would like to welcome everybody to today's WDRN webinar, Embracing Digital Communications in the New Normal, Effective In-Person, Virtual, and Hybrid Services. I would also like to thank everybody for taking the time to join us today. This slide, I have a few housekeeping details to help us out. We're going to start off with a presentation from Trisha. It appears to be promising from what I can see. And then we're going to open up for discussion and conversation and questions. Welcome to keep your camera on. I'd be happy to have that. But if you are not speaking, could you just mute your microphone? Ways to interact is through the chat. I'll be monitoring that. Also, you can use the emoji symbols. And then if you do want to speak, then just unmute yourself and then go ahead and speak. Today, at the end of the webinar, I'm going to be putting in an evaluation link in. It's a very short evaluation. It just gives us some feedback about today's program and then potential ideas for future ones. So your help would be very much appreciated. So today's topic and presentation came out of a discussion that the WDRN advisory board members had last fall. They were discussing the different challenges that we're all living in with this new normal, with the pandemic continuing. And so they thought it might be helpful to have a webinar on terms of how folks are navigating the pandemic, some of the tools they're using, some of the benefits, and some of the problems they're having. And so I asked the board members, who would be a person that we could do this? Who is a trailblazer, someone who collaborates, someone who thinks outside the box, someone who's having some success in navigating this new normal? Multiple board members suggested Trisha. Hence, Trisha was asked to do this, and she graciously agreed to do the webinar. So I really appreciate that. Trisha is a community health educator, and she's the dementia specialist for the Aging and Disability Resource Center in Barron, Rusk, and Washburn counties. She's been with the ADRC for 17 years and continues to learn from the families and the communities that she works with. So it's my great pleasure to turn the platform over to Trisha.
Thank you so much, Jody. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now, and let's see, where am I? All right, so here we go. So yes, this is the title of it. I want to give you full disclosure that I have no tech degree. I don't claim to be an expert in all things video conference and hybrid, but I am learning. So the extent of my computer use in my early years was learning to type on the keyboard and also the Oregon Trail. So I think I was talking with Kathy earlier, and there's a lot of great stuff about this. And then there's also a lot of frustrations, which we'll talk about too. So I still am learning tools, tips, and techniques to a lot of these video conferencing platforms. And I also still get frustrated at times as well. So this presentation is really focused on my personal experience as I expanded into that virtual and hybrid space since 2020, and kind of what I picked up along the way. So I'd like to start the presentation with showing you a short video that pretty much sums up my experience at the start of this whole expansion into virtual world. And I hope maybe some of you also have felt some of these same feelings. Oops, sorry. And it went. Okay, so I put that in as just a kind of a funny video. Oops, and I can't get out of it. So let's see, I can't, 1 second here. There we go. Okay, so that funny video just kind of sums up, I've been probably through every one of those memes, from forgetting to mute myself, to other people not muting, to trying to share my screen. And so again, it's all still a learning world that we're all in. And I think we've all kind of felt those at one point or the other. I did like to end that with Kermit the Frog, with his kind of view of, hey, learning technology is not going to hurt me, right? So it may feel painful at certain areas, but it's not going to necessarily hurt us. So again, can you guys all see the top part of my slide, Jody? Yeah, okay. So I can't necessarily see it because it says it's giving me my little view up here, but
we're seeing stages of change.
Perfect. Okay. So this is kind of where I started. And as a community health educator, I like to use this model because we talk a lot about this model as far as motivation, right? We get into that pre-contemplation. We might not even be thinking about anything, moving to contemplating about it, and then also preparing to make that action. And then there's of course maintenance, right? So there have been many times along my journey that I have relapsed and wanted to throw away all video conferencing. But again, we get back into that maintenance and keep moving forward. So my experience with going virtual, January 2020, I had no intention of starting virtual meetings or conferences in the foreseeable future. In fact, I had a DCS colleague up in the north who talked about how she used Zoom to connect long distance caregivers. And I thought, that's interesting, but I don't know if I'll ever use that. As far as April 2020, the beginning of that pandemic, or about a month after, I definitely became aware that I might have to be open to moving towards virtual platforms. By May 2020, I began to do my research. So I'm getting prepped now. I then began to look at what I could use with Google Meet, which was the platform that we used for our county. By June 2020, I then started to utilize Google Meet for dementia consultations with families and other programs. So July 2020, I then started to realize that this was a lot of work. So how could I get some help from others? I then looked to our Northwest Dementia Care Specialist group to see if we could collaborate on offering these virtual programs on a monthly basis, which we were able to do. So we were able to kind of spread out the work and who had to do what, which was helpful to be able to offer this monthly. So August 2020 to present day, we still continue to offer regional virtual dementia programs on a monthly basis, and it's open to anyone really in the state, but we help market each other's events in the Northwest region. We also are able to connect long distance with working family members and long distance family caregivers to help them connect in with family meetings. These have been phenomenal. So I've been able to connect caregivers that are living, a son or a daughter living out in California or Arizona with a parent who has dementia here in my local area. So they're able to hear that same communication and also how they can support both their person with dementia and also that caregiver there in person. I have now also started to explore hybrid models, which is really combining that in-person and also virtual combined. And that's been quite a challenge, but again, we're just starting to explore that and understand how those work. We have also since purchased a Zoom account. And so I do utilize both Google and Zoom accounts for a lot of my virtual meetings with folks. Here's a couple of examples of some of the dementia education programs that we offer monthly. So you can see for March 2022, everyone has access virtually to many of the programs such as dementia and safety or dementia and sundowning, brain health opportunities such as booster brain and memory, and also our evidence-based savvy caregiver class. So again, these change monthly, but they're offered throughout the year. And then for us as the dementia care specialist, we're able to kind of trade up who's doing what. So we're not the only one being burdened with doing all of the virtual experiences. Another grant opportunity that we worked with was with the Respite Care Association of Wisconsin to increase private pay respite providers on their registry. And we did this all virtually last year and had a lot, over 50 people attended our virtual sessions throughout the year just to learn more about becoming a private pay respite provider. And we were able to fill up our registry for our local Barron, Rusk, and Washburn counties, going from 0 providers to about 14 to 16 total serving our area. So we were really excited about that in 1 year. So again, I just want to really reiterate that virtual meetings aren't going to meet everyone's needs because we still have people that don't have internet access, who may be not as comfortable using that. But these opportunities are kind of part of our continuous process of being able to provide this education and connection out in our community. So success, I like to say, don't give up. When I said I had many relapses, there were times when I thought, okay, the pandemic's coming to a close, let's just get back to in-person. But I really realized through this whole process that not only in-person is helpful, but that this video conferencing virtual platforms do have a role and do have a role to connect not only our families, but also our communities and making them more dementia friendly. So I think I like to use this meme here. People always think success is this straight line and you're going straight up. Success really, for me at least, is I might take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, or I'm kind of going around and finding new tips and tricks. I would definitely say collaboration for the win. So you can't take all of this on yourself, and there's a lot of virtual video conferencing happening everywhere. So I'd really encourage you to work with your colleagues to see if you can't form some collaboration and kind of spread the wealth of those virtual education programs. We've also been able to make it easier for long distance family caregivers to join us at various times as well. So, you know, in the evenings, maybe their evening, they can join us during a day visit. So again, it's just very flexible for people. It's another option to have on hand. Okay, so let's talk about some of the challenges. So when we first started in 2020, what we found is that every county, their IT department really chose which virtual platform that we could use. So some were using WebEx, some were using Google, some were using Microsoft Teams. And so we really had to navigate through that. They're all different. They all have you know, the same basic outcome, but there's little differences in each of them. So you might have to learn where to share your screen differently on each of those. So learning the ins and outs of how to use your chosen platform, getting comfortable with it, and then having to learn a new one. So that has been an ongoing challenge. And I feel like there's probably going to be more added in the future, or they'll continuously be updated, right? So it's just an ongoing process of really learning those ins and outs and then being able to kind of adapt to future ones. In the beginning, the Zoom platform, or at least the free version, was limited to 40 minutes for our meetings, which definitely hindered many of our educational sessions that are hour or longer. So sharing a screen or presenting when you can't see the participants. I had that on Google Meet, not so much here, and that might have changed, but that's also been difficult with book clubs or various things if you can't see who you're talking to. In addition, a lot of people have their cameras off, so we're not getting that nonverbal feedback that we're so used to when we do stuff in person. So for me, that's continued to be challenging, but I work through that. And then of course, combining in-person and virtual, which I'll talk about a little bit more towards the end of the presentation here. So of course, one of the biggest challenges for me was helping participants learn how to use video conferencing technology. I'm pretty passionate. During this time, I wanted to make sure that our older adults were getting connected to the same dementia services and programs and the brain health opportunities that we had. So there was a lot of tech support that I was providing to participants, especially in that very beginning, first couple of years between 2020 and 2021. So I have no tech degree, no formal training, and some limited experience. And so for me, trying to provide that to participants was definitely challenging. Plus, you can't see their screen. And then of course, facilitating conversation, and that goes back to the, oh gosh, you're on mute. Oh, you're trying to speak, find the microphone. Oh, it's at the bottom, or everyone's staring at each other, when we might be asking for feedback, right? So, hey, what'd you guys think of chapter 3 in the high octane book club? And everyone just kind of, and then two people start talking at the same time, right? Oh, you go ahead. Nope, I go ahead. Let's mute. And then somebody starts speaking and they're still on mute, right? So that's happened a lot, but that's, again, probably one of the biggest challenges I've had with doing video conferencing. So I have a video that I'm going to show you that may or may not be the way I have felt in helping participants get on technology, but I can guarantee you it's how my IT tech department has felt about me when I've called them.
היי אמא, כן, יש לי כמה דקות עכשיו. יש לך כבר זום מותקן על המחשב? לא משנה, זה די פשוט. נתחיל מההתחלה. טוב, עכשיו כנסי לאתר ZOOM, זום. אני מחכה, כל טוב, בלי לחץ. תעשי יירשם בעזרת גוגל. הכניסי את הסיסמה של המייל. אני לא יודע מה הסיסמה של המייל שלך, זה התחלה לדעת. יכול להיות שאת על קפסלוק, עכשיו תכניסי שוב את הסיסמה. יופי, עכשיו כנסי לזום, תקראי לי את האפשרויות. New meeting, בקטון. כן, את רואה את עצמך. עכשיו תלחצי על Manage Participant, זה למטה. זה בסרגל שנפתח לך למטה. Manage Participant. מה האפשרויות שיש לך? Manage Participant. צריכה להזין קצת העכבר. Manage Participant. כן, Invite. תחפשי copy URL. מה האפשרויות שיש לך שם? אמא, יש שם copy URL. מתחת לזה, מתחת. כן, יש שם copy. אמא, יש שם copy האותיות URL. יש שם. הכל טוב. אני מתקשר אלייך בוואטסאפ. תעני לי. היי אמא, תסובבי את המצלמה. אני רואה אותך. אני רוצה לראות את המסך. איך הגעת למסך הזה? תסגרי, תלחצי. copy URL. הנה, copy. את רואה בצד ימין. אפשר לשלוח גם במייל. אם נעמי אומרת שאת תהנה מוואטסאפ ווב, אנחנו נעשה את זה. תרשמי בגוגל וואטסאפ ווב. שימי את הפלאפון מול המסך שיצלם את הקוד. לא, ממש עם המצלמה. יש לך וואטסאפ ווב. עכשיו תחפשי אותי, שלחי לי את ה-URL. אני בפגישה, איפה את? אבל למה סגרת את הזום? לא נורא, כנסי שוב. New meeting, Manage Participants. Invite, copy URL, תמזרי את הזום. לא, אל תצאי למזר. מין פס קטן שנמצא ליד ה-X. למה סגרת את הוואטסאפ? לא אשמתך. כן, אני רואה את ההזמנה. תאשרי אותי. את צריכה לאשר אותי. Manage Participants. כן, על השם שלי, אדמית. אמא, יש שם אדמית. לא בוחר, איזה אפשרויות את רואה? כן, אדמית. היי!
הנה, עכשיו אני רואה אותך, איזה יופי. וואי, אתה רואה גם אותי? עכשיו תסביר לי איך אני משתפת את המסך, גם הם יראו את הזום וגם הם יראו את המצגת וישמעו אותי מסבירה. אפשר לעשות דבר כזה?
בואי נהנה ממה שיש, מחר נשתף מסך, יופי. תעשי live meeting, באדום למעלה, live! אני מצטער.
So I want you to, we might have all felt that way at one time. I won't admit that I have, but I probably have done some crying in the end. But I want you to really pay attention to the end part where he connects with his mom and he's like, there you are, right? That happened a lot. And I know that video was definitely fast forwarded because it was about an hour with a lot of the participants when we were working with it. So again, I worked with a few ladies in their 70s who had never been on a video conferencing. They wanted to do Boost Your Brain and Memory or various other programs, and we'd work with them. And when they got on though, it was amazing. So our older adults who are probably some of the most isolated during this pandemic because of their risks, it was so great to see somebody from my community be able to connect, right? And then connect with others from all over our area, all about, kind of the same topic or interested in the same thing. So again, I just think it was great because that was the point of this, right? Is to still have that connection. And although it may be frustrating, we can get to it. So it reminds me a lot of what I might talk about in dementia as well, which is we might get there, right? Dementia is kind of like we want to get to our destination, but there is a 6-hour delay, traffic jam, or a big car accident, right? So we'll still make it to our destination, but it's just going to take us a lot longer to get there. So being patient was definitely an attribute to add in helping others to learn technology as well. So a lot of the benefits through being able to connect people virtually here was that long distance family members could be brought in and part of those dementia care consultations. I think that's also super important because I think we've all been in that situation where family members, you might meet with a family, chat with them, and then they're telling their son or daughter, and it's like playing telephone. The message might get a little bit lost. So having some of those long distance caregivers right in that meeting to hear the same things, to ask those questions is really huge. And then of course, socialization and connections. We have some folks that continuously join every brain health opportunity virtually from our Northwest region. So these folks are also starting to get to know each other because then they see each other on the next kind of Google or Zoom educational program. So that's been awesome, as well as caregivers too. So being able to connect with other caregivers with these virtual education programs as well. The other great benefit I think about this, especially for my counties up in the Northwest area, which are a little bit more rural, is the opportunity for our local residents to participate in programs that they can do when it fits in their schedule. When we did in person, it's on a Tuesday. If that doesn't work for you, you have to wait for the next one. So they can just kind of do this then when it fits into their schedule. They have access to a wide variety of new programs that they may never have had before. It was very interesting. The Association for Frontotemporal Dementia is having their annual conference this year again, and it will be held virtually. And that is fantastic for a lot of my families dealing with frontotemporal dementia to be able to access with experts and national leaders in that area. So, and again, a big thing too for some of our caregivers was that they didn't have to worry about finding respite for their loved one. So again, they could join or connect through things without having that additional kind of burden or need to do. And then I like to say this to myself many times over, it increases brain health, right? Both in myself and the participants. So I think we've had a lot of laughs, especially on our brain health programs, as far as, hey, this is technology and we're all learning something new. So this is really good for our brain. It's challenging, right? So I think we can always throw that into any of the benefits, especially when we're talking with participants. So, going on to some of the lessons learned and some of the tips that I would share is that just providing an opportunity for participants to practice with video conferencing beforehand. What I learned over the last couple of years is that you need to be really good and clear with some boundaries. So set up times or have a session 0 technology kind of, let's try it, right? Before we're going to go on. A lot of times I might have people calling me, even though I'd say, here's the link, call me or email me back if you want to practice. And they might call me about 20 minutes before the presentation or the program was supposed to start. That was not helpful. So being really clear in your communication, like let's have a pre-session. If you're new to Zoom or you're new to WebEx, let's try to all get on hand and make sure we're comfortable with knowing where everything is. Engage participants when they come on early. It kind of helps to establish that rapport. I know some of you came on when Jody and I were chatting, but there's nothing worse than everyone just kind of waiting for the meeting to start and everyone's just staring at each other. That goes to that Brady Bunch meme, right? Like look down, hey, how's it going? And I think that helps to kind of just ease that awkward tension when you first come on. Embrace time flexibility. So I know I think in person, we're like, oh, we want to respect everyone's time. We're getting started right at time. I think with our video conferencing platforms, we really want to give it that good 5 minutes or so, just because there is more problems that can occur with technology, right? Their video might not be working right, or audio or something, or they're in the waiting room and you forgot to let them in, that type of thing. So just kind of, dotting your I's, crossing your T's with that, and giving that good 5 minutes. I always do before I start. Establish group rules. This is something that I've seen. I noticed Jody even had her nice slide of some housekeeping. How do I raise my hand? Where is this located? Those are really helpful tips when you're conducting these video conferencing sessions. So again, just let people know, hey, what's important to you guys? Hey, everything we talk about in here is confidential, or if you're available, please have your video on if your internet's, pretty much stable, that type of thing. And then acknowledge any awkwardness or tech issues, or the kids or pets climbing on you, etc. There was a couple of times my youngest one was quarantined with me, and I had a Dementia Live presentation that I was doing virtually. She did fine the first one. I had her contentedly involved. The second one, she was climbing up on my shoulders, mimicking me as I was speaking. So we just went with the flow. And, just acknowledge that and know that we're all trying to do our best here. I think what's been really neat is that everyone's really gracious with one another, from participants to other professionals. And I would just encourage you to continue to extend that grace. Again, when tech works great, it's awesome. And when we have those kinks, we always feel that, oh, I should have checked this, but I say just go with the flow, acknowledge it, and then, kind of move on. The other thing that I thought was great about having participants work with you to get on some of these virtual programs was that it really increases their own self-efficacy and confidence in using video conferencing in general. So then, being able to use telehealth to talk with their doctor or to connect with friends and family. So just by being able to do that, it really, again, you're thinking about that is really increasing their ability to be able to connect in other areas. And then, yeah, okay, I think I got all that. So just looking at my notes here. And then as far as exploring hybrid models, we're now kind of looking into this as we are, as an ADRC, looking at going back in person. Well, we are. In addition, we want to keep these virtual offerings. So with that, though, one of my concerns was, boy, I was kind of way busy with in-person stuff for 3 counties before the pandemic. How am I going to add this virtual stuff as well, too? Well, 2 of the things that helps is that collaboration, right? So again, teaming up with your colleagues to see if you can kind of help to spread that out among each other and provide all those opportunities to everyone. So again, just a really good win-win for both your professional colleagues and then also participants. We currently purchased this hybrid piece of equipment called the Meeting Owl Pro. And this has a automatic microphone that picks up sound and then automatically focuses on the person that is talking in the room. While on the screen, it shows every virtual participant in a kind of a panoramic view as well. So again, if we're in a virtual setting where I might have to ask feedback from the group, one of the things I realized that in virtual, without this piece of equipment, if I tried to both combine in-person and virtual, the people on the screen kind of got left behind because the in-person people then kind of took over the conversation. So I was just able to try this out actually yesterday with our WITS workout, and we had 4 people join us virtually and 3 people in person, and it actually worked quite well. So again, what was difficult for me was remembering where to look. So we would see the people virtually up on the screen, but you really look at them at the camera where the owl is located. So that was something that was a little unique. I'm used to looking at my computer screen to see the virtual people. So this is something that we're going to, again, explore and utilize. It has an 18-foot audio pickup radius. And as of right now, this is the only piece of equipment that I know is out there to kind of help with hybrid models. So I'm sure there's going to be more if there's not already more now. I'm not saying this is the only one to use or the best one, but this is what I'm starting out with. And it's really easy to use. So you plug your owl into your laptop and it automatically connects with whichever platform you're using. So whether it's WebEx, Google Meet, etc. And again, this piece of equipment really helps to connect both your virtual people and then your people that are attending in person as well. This particular piece of equipment was purchased for more smaller rooms, so up to about 50 people. Larger conferences, they have additional equipment that assists with that as well. So again, this is the WITS Works for brain health. Kind of going forward with that, we are, every Wednesday, 11 to noon, you can come in person at the Barron location or you can join us virtually. So again, this is just something we're utilizing this year to see if we can make our time more efficient by combining the two. And so far, our first one went well. So we plan to continue to use this. Here's some resources for you because I know all of us are using some sort of platform, but if you're looking at really using a platform to get something on a continuous basis, I would, of course, start with your IT department because they are like magic. They know everything, and ask your tech support for help. But there's lots out there on the internet that can kind of help you compare the different platforms and what you're looking for. So, going in with knowing what you need and then comparing these are great. And there's a lot of comparison tools out on the internet. But, some of these platforms might depend on how much bandwidth you have for internet, right? If you want it to do streaming and webinar events, etc. If you want analytics on some of your video conferencing, or if you don't, if you want to have breakout rooms or whiteboards, all of that stuff. So it can be overwhelming, but again, if you kind of work with your IT department and try to figure out, what platform is going to be the best, and then really looking for that ease of use. A couple of resources I put on this website or on my presentation here is the connection to the Owl Labs, which sells the Meeting Owl. And then also a new one that I can, go to afterwards, but is Senior Planet. And Senior Planet is a new website that was in collaboration with the AARP. And there are a ton of video conferencing sessions that you can join, from physical activity for socialization, learning something new, lots of it all geared towards older adults. So that socialization and connection piece. In addition, they have a helpline number. So any older adult can call and work through how to use a platform with them. I called them, double checked it out, and it's amazing. So we plan to kind of really start utilizing that phone number on our future events to also save a little bit of our time with some of that tech support that we have been providing. So new to virtual conferencing, start with calling this phone number to kind of get a practice, etc. So seniorplanet.org is a great website, but it has that phone number on there that you can call. And I believe it's Monday through Friday as well. All right, so that kind of wraps up my part of the information part, but I'm going to turn it over to Jody because she's going to send us a poll. We wanted to kind of hear from you, and we're going to do a Zoom poll to make this a little interactive. And we're going to do, well, I'll just turn it over to Jody and I'll let you kind of take over with that. Do you want me to stop sharing?
I think that's helpful if you do.
Okay. Oops, no.
Unless you have additional slides, let's see. Oh, you do. You don't have to. Oh, okay.
Yeah, here you go.
We're good. All right. So I'm going to launch a poll. There are 5 questions. And when I bring up the poll, you're not going to be able to see all 5 questions because a couple of them have multiple answers in them. And we thought this might be helpful to get a sense of who's doing what with what type of activities. And so when you pull up, when it comes up, you can scroll down and to get the bottom question. So I am going to launch the poll. And oops, that's wrong one here. Let's see. All right. You should be able to see the poll right now. Again, there are 5 questions. On the right side, there's a little gray item that you can scroll down and you can then get the rest of the answer. You would check all that apply to you. Is everybody seeing the poll okay?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I'm just not seeing anything coming in. So the first question asks, what methods do you use for education and training? And then you have the option of in-person, virtual, hybrid, recordings, or YouTube, phone, podcasts, blogs, and that continues. And then the question 2 talks about if you do support groups, how you're
Jody?
doing those. Yes,
Was there only 2 questions on the poll?
there's 5. You have to scroll
Okay,
down on the
because
little gray bottle.
I clicked on the second, answered the second question and it disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same happened to me.
Same here.
Yep.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to relaunch it. How's
Jody,
that?
are you talking about what we're doing right now or what we
Yes.
were doing? Okay, right now.
Yes, we just thought it'd be helpful to kind of get a sense who's on, what they're doing, and it would help with discussion so we can maybe learn from each other. Now, this might be one of those opportunities where technology was not my friend, because it doesn't look like what I'm getting anybody's answering.
Jody, it's just going to take us all a second to submit.
We're still working
I
on
think
it,
that's
Jody.
why.
Okay, I'm just going to
Yeah.
sit quiet. It looks like it's working. Thank you, guys. I'll be patient. How's it going? Does anybody need any more time? Am I good to stop?
It looks like it, Jody, to me, like most
Okay.
have answered. Mhm.
All right. So I am going to count the back by 5, and then we're going to end it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I am going to share the results now. So let's go to question 1. So on question 1, which asks, what methods do you use for education and trainings for the clients and the general public? It looks like people are using virtual and also in person, which is exciting for me to see. I think there are some phenomenal things that happen when you can do things in person that aren't captured by virtual. So on question 1, anybody see any surprises, or does it kind of, do you have any benefits, things that aren't working when you do use them, or things you've run into? I guess I just kind of want to open up for general discussion. Was it the results surprise anybody?
I will say the in-person surprises me that it's at 59%, but I may be considered overcautious by some, but it still surprises me that it's that high, especially in winter. I mean, once spring, summer comes along, when we can be outside and more spread out, and the COVID numbers are tapped down a little. Thank you.
Good comment. So I have a question. The folks that are doing in person, how big are those in-person educations? How many people in attendance?
Well, I can say for a few of the in-person ones that I've had, you know, anywhere from like 14, some support groups, 8. You know, again, not huge numbers. Nobody's really kind of doing the conferences type thing. But yeah, more along the smaller numbers, I would say.
So smaller groups, does that resonate with everybody else? I mean, anybody doing bigger than 10 or 12? So smaller, in the chat, looks like Karen has indicated 3 smaller groups. I know we're not allowed to do anything big, at least at UW-Madison. So because of all the unknowns and the fluctuations, everything, we opted actually to do everything virtual all the way through the end of 2022 because it was just too difficult to plan. We get national speakers and stuff, and no one could commit to travel. So we are doing, at least in my 2 divisions, nothing in person. So, and I'm not able to travel to meet with clinics either in healthcare systems. So I'm total virtual. So I'm excited to see there are some in-person stuff going on. Anybody else want to make any, well, what do you guys think about the recording piece with the education? A good thing, not a good thing?
I like when people do recordings and they email them out afterwards, because I've shared them with other people that I think would use the recording and gain some knowledge from it.
I also appreciate when the recordings are sent out. I'm asked to, I'm kind of a backup for anything that's happening in our in-person services. So there's oftentimes where if something's, you know, scheduled for an hour or an hour and a half, I may need to just walk away because my help is needed elsewhere. So if I miss those things, it's nice to be able to go back and then also sharing it with anybody else in my organization that would benefit from the knowledge.
Excellent comment. That's to me, one of the gold nuggets of the pandemic. When we try to record events, it would cost us like $3,000 or $4,000 to record them with all the IT people that had come and all the cameras, and they took so much space. With the webinars, you just push a button, and then you just need to have someone be able to post it for you and work on it. So, and it doesn't cost you anything. That's been my experience. To me, this has been a silver lining. Kathy? I wasn't sure. I thought she was going to say something. She came on. Okay. All right. Any other comments about question one? This is again with education trainings for general publics or clients. So let's move down to the results. I don't know if you can see all of them unless I'm pulling them up here. So this is methods used for support groups for clients and general publics.
Can everyone see it? I can't see it. Oh, you can see it. I might be on a different screen though. Thanks.
I think because you're a co-host, you can't.
You can scroll down on this with using the sidebar.
Thank you.
Trisha, you have what I get, so you have to go ahead, do it too. I think that's how we got lost the first time, because you and I both get it, but you can't participate.
Got it. And I think I tried to, so see.
I think that's what glitch went out. Yep. So it looks like the virtual is still the predominant piece, but some in person. Some phone. Do you find you're doing more phone work with support groups than you were pre-pandemic? I see a yes. Any comments about question 2 and the results? Is this what kind of in line where everybody's thinking things were?
The Zoom phone-in option is really terrific. I've got 4 or 5 guys in rural areas for my men's group who couldn't be on if I couldn't dial them up and call them in. So that's been great.
So is that just kind of like having a party line that everybody calls into a phone number and you're able to dialogue?
Yeah, sort of like that. I'm able to actually phone them from the Zoom, from Zoom. I enter their phone number. So all they do is pick up the phone and they're basically on. They have to hit a key, but so these are guys who literally have flip phones or, home phones.
Does it work with landlines too?
Yeah, it works with landlines too.
Excellent. I did not hear of that one.
Yeah, it's been a terrific, and I think we've used it for a couple of other groups, but for my men's group, it's been fantastic.
So the only thing they have to do is pick up the phone.
Pretty much. They may have to push one number, but it tells them push 1 to enter. But I think I took that off, so it's become very, very easy for them to get on there. There are no problems. These are guys who've been doing it for months now, and who have no technical facility, particularly some of them.
So in the chat, there's comments about this. This is a cool feature I had not heard about. So this is excellent. It looks like Teams also has that. Thank you, Nancy. And then Kathy's indicated that Zoom has a number of people that can call in on themselves also. So this would be where you don't get the face-to-face, but it's the ease of using the technology, and it doesn't put much effort on the person all the people you're trying to connect.
I would say it adds an extra challenge to facilitators, because you really have to be thinking about facilitating effectively for people who can't see what's going on, and then for folks who do have video. So that's just a little bit more of a challenge probably for the facilitator from my perspective.
Are there any tips that you could share on how you navigate that challenge?
Just tell the folks on the phone who's on, because they don't know who's on. So you have to do that. And in our group, we do introductions all around, and that helps. But also you have to be a little bit more proactive in bringing some of the guys in and asking for their comments who are on the phone because they don't have any visual cues to see when there's a space. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Perfectly.
I'm gonna echo. Yeah, I'd like to echo what Jeffrey just said. It really does, as the facilitator of a group like that, where you've got hybrid, or if they are having issues with the camera or just calling in from a phone, really as the facilitator, making sure that you are paying attention to each person and giving them the space, because they might not know that they can take it. So just like, I kind of make a list and go through, have we heard from everybody yet? And I kind of just follow that rhythm. And that seems to work pretty well.
Excellent. And there are some comments in the chat. Thank you, Trisha. She's indicating some of the perks from out of the pandemic. The ease without traveling. I mean, I've started a group I had wanted to start 5 years ago, but I just couldn't figure out how to do that. Like a quarterly group among these clinicians, just to have a community of practice discussion. And the technology has opened the window for that. We do it over lunch hour, and I have people all over the state of Wisconsin that can jump on, where I would never been able to do that prior to the pandemic. So the travel piece is good. The call out option works well for folks who don't have good internet and broadband. That's a really good point, Trisha, that not everybody, and I know I've been through Wisconsin, there are some really big gaps. And that's only just the broadband, but then if someone doesn't have the technology. Excellent, good conversation. Should we go on to the next question? All right. So number 3 deals with how you interact individually with clients and families versus as a group or in a support group. And it looks like the primary area is via phone. And I think probably based upon some of the just recent discussion. Anybody would have any comments or want to, specifically discuss this? I'm curious with the FaceTime, who's doing that and how is that working? And the texting. Anybody who want to comment on how they're doing those? By all means, Trisha, you too.
So I haven't used that. I was actually waiting because I would be interested to hear how people are using FaceTime, because that's great. Whoever might have put that in there to share. How about anyone, does anyone else have experience with doing virtual or using any of these video conferencing platforms for one-on-one with their customers or clients? Positive or negative story or lesson learned, anything?
My rec therapy department at Aptive, we do a one-on-one program 3 times a week for 30 minutes or so with an individual who has some significant cognitive delays. So we're working on very base stuff. And he responds really well because he can focus on just the facilitator. And then his parents are usually around. And we all kind of had to learn how to use the platform and things like that, but they caught on pretty quick. So we've kind of just like done it as a team. And he's actually shown lots of progress. He's responding more to his parents. He's increasing his vocabulary. He's making choice. It's been really cool. So that's been a really positive one.
So Mikkel, you work with folks that have cognitive impairments, like developmental disabilities, some maybe, this has brought some, kind of sounds like some unique benefits.
Yeah, it's been very interesting. We implemented our telehealth recreation therapy programming in response to the pandemic because our locations all shut down. So anything that anyone was working on immediately stopped. And we had quite the turnout in the first few months before we started reopening and things like that. We were up to almost 40 people enrolled in our programming, which was really cool. So big learning curve for all of us, but everybody caught on pretty quick, and we're still implementing those programs.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks for sharing.
Mhm.
If you look in the chat, it looks like Kathy has some tips in terms of how they do an icebreaker to kind of get folks kind of engaged. And Kathy Jean Glazer has mentioned she's had people give her tours of their apartment in an effort to try to look at safety, potential assessing for safety. Excellent idea. Any other type of kind of things that you are like, yes, I did this, or this came as a result?
I also think just offering it, if it's something that you do choose to do, to letting your customers know that it's an option. Because again, it's not something that is kind of ingrained in our brains as far as a choice. It's more like, email, phone call, or an in-person visit. So just being able to offer that, you might find that people are choosing that option more too. Or, oh, could we can we bring in, my sister as well? She lives in the Twin Cities, but I'd like for her to attend.
So anybody who's doing the texting or FaceTime want to comment, or should we move on? We're not going to entice you enough to get in the conversation, huh? Oh, there's a chat that Kathy says she's had someone from Alaska. This is one of the benefits we found in the clinics I work with, is they're actually able to do results from the evaluation with more family from all over that can jump on a Zoom meeting. And some of the clinics have actually started, instead of giving the diagnosis at the initial evaluation, they're actually scheduling a follow-up results appointment so they can actually do a virtual with more family members, so everybody's on the same page. And here's what they're, and have an opportunity to ask questions.
So that was an older adult with later stage Alzheimer's, and he wasn't interested in talking on the phone with this daughter from Alaska, but being able to see her and then see her children, he was very engaged in. It was all the difference with having the video.
Wow, that's where actually like face-to-face kind of a visual helps, where we've all found that kind of a hindrance, not being able to be in person. But here's an example. It's the next step if you from the phone, right? Excellent. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
It's a little bit like the Jetsons, right? For those of you who are old enough.
I do have a lady that we know, she's actually expressed that she's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and she jumps on a lot of our virtual programs and doesn't, her ability to speak is limited as far as her word finding ability. And there are some times that it's, the camera's upside down or something and we might see her, but she hops on every single time, and she'll follow up sometimes by email and just say, thanks so much, or I really enjoyed that. And just, again, I always think, oh, it has to be, this outcome. And for her, it might simply just be that ability to socialize and just hear from other, you know what I mean? And so all of those are really just neat wins, I think, too, that we can get.
Hey everyone, it's Bonnie from WAI and the Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. I just wanted to share briefly, we have a program at WAI called New Friends, where we pair people living with MCI or early dementia with students who are in the healthcare profession. And we've had to do this all virtual. We went back a little bit in person if the people lived within relative distance of Madison. And it's interesting how each mentor prefers to communicate with the students. We have one individual with MCI who prefers to text and email. Otherwise, he can't remember the conversations. And so that way, before he meets with the students, he reviews everything, right? And other people don't even care about that. They just want to like meet up and they do activities together via Zoom. And usually the students have the ability to adapt to whatever preferred method of communication the mentor does. So we have some that FaceTime with their family, so they FaceTime with the students. It's usually kind of whatever they use for other programming is what they're most comfortable with. And there are some mentors who participate in tons of programs, you know, like we have, I think, 3 or 4 that participate in the conversations program via Zoom. With the Alzheimer's and Dementia Alliance, and you can tell how comfortable they are because they're just so used to it now, right? But it's interesting how each mentor has a different preference of what they're most comfortable with and how they want to interact. Most of them don't want to do just a phone call though. They'd rather email or see each other face to face or text.
So Bonnie, just in case folks aren't, so the mentors are folks that are actually living with a dementia diagnosis. Yep. And so they help mentor the students or, you know, interface with them. Bonnie, what have been I have just been very impressed with how the program was able to adapt to go virtually. What do you think some of the benefits have been in terms of virtual opportunities?
Yeah, I think one of the benefits is we've been able to recruit mentors that live in places that normally wouldn't be able to participate. So before we might not have put out a request through the WDRN because we wanted you to be in driving distance to participate in person. And we've got people from all over the US. Over half the people don't live within Wisconsin, or they live outside of Dane County. So it's really, and we do have some that live in Dane County, but I think we've been able to have a bigger impact. And I think it's also less stressful on the caregivers because they just have to get the person set up. They don't have to worry about driving somebody somewhere or the care partners who may help out a person. And it takes less time from everybody's schedule. You know, the Zoom of just, you know, like you guys said, you can roll out of bed and be ready in, you know, like 20 minutes rather than, you know, taking that time to drive somewhere and everything like that. And that can be stressful for the mentors. So it is more, I think, comforting for a lot of people. But really the ability to give more people the opportunity. We've been able to help people who might be more isolated otherwise.
Excellent. Again, I've seen that program adapt beautifully to the experience and the reach.
Yeah, we're actually going to keep the program hybrid moving forward. One of the things we've had a harder time with is we have group meetings 3 times a year where it's a large group meeting where all the mentors and students usually get together in person. We do the match day in October where everybody, it's like the kickoff. So you get to meet your mentor and student pairs and spend time getting to know each other. And then we do one in around Valentine's Day, and we call it like a friendship gathering. And then we do a wrap up at the end of the year. And prior to the pandemic, we would do this in person. So you would have a meal and hang out, and we bring in like some presenter about something kind of fun and do an activity. And that's been a little harder to adapt. Like the mentors either love the large group activity or they don't want to participate at all. So we're trying to reevaluate what we can do. Like, should we even do those as a hybrid option or not? This last time, my colleague Cheryl, who works on the program with me, decided let's try breakout rooms with different options. So one was like a visual word game breakout room. One was visual trivia. And the third one was like a scavenger hunt where you find something in your house that means something to you that you want to share and talk about with the group. So to see if, okay, can we get people to, you know, have options and feel more like they could interact. And it was the same thing. People either really liked it or they came just because they felt like they had to. And so we're still working on trying to figure out that large group concept, what that looks like.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Bonnie, I just wanted to mention too, I think you really said that that was a really key piece that you said is we're reevaluating or we're evaluating this approach and is it working? And that's just something I didn't put in my presentation, but definitely, I mean, that's the thing is don't be afraid to try things, but then, kind of step back and look at and evaluate that. Did that work, or what can we adjust? So the idea of breakout rooms, I mean, I love that. There's always potential there. It's just sometimes we go in thinking this should work perfectly the way I have it in my head, and then it doesn't. Or, there's a couple of glitches. And so being able to reevaluate and look and check with IT or look at different things. How can we make this better for our people? So really good. I like that you brought that up. Thanks.
Yeah, and one of the things we've experienced too is that we have to have 2 or 3 of us on, because especially when we're doing breakout rooms, we need to have like a facilitator in the breakout room, but we need to have one person who stays and helps people get to where they're going in case technology doesn't work. So we click the magic button, we make a joke about how we click the magic button and we see if everybody goes where they're supposed to go. And then if not, the nice thing is there's 3 of us who are co-hosts, so we can just, automatically put the people in their room so they don't have to worry about it, right? We're like, if it didn't work, don't worry, we got you. Or when they got to choose, we're like, just tell us if you don't feel comfortable, we'll put you there, And when there's more of us, it's not as stressful as being a facilitator, like by yourself, like, oh gosh, it's all falling apart.
So, and other folks have referenced the need for the facilitators in the breakout room. So thanks for sharing, Bonnie. Those are really helpful. And I think the breakout room is a interesting concept. And Trisha, you've referenced that you like the breakout rooms. Do you have anything that you'd like to share or tips about them since we're on that topic?
Yeah, well, I attended a couple conferences that were all virtual, and in order to keep us engaged, like we sit through the presenters, which was wonderful. You could go off into different sessions, but then they put you in different, like even within the session, they put us in smaller groups so we could really talk about more specific things, bringing it then back to the greater good or the greater group. So it was really neat that we could take a small handful of us. We had a certain topic that we were brainstorming, that we were, really as a smaller group talking and able to, connect with each other, and then in turn bring it back to the greater group. So it was a great way to virtually still engage all participants. And I just love that option that we could break it down, because sometimes when you're in those large virtual settings, you kind of get lost, or you feel like, oh, I can't speak up, this might be rude. Or so to have that smaller breakout time was a great opportunity. And I hope we can continue to use that as we move forward.
Excellent comment. And did you know before you jumped on that there were going to be breakout rooms in that webinar?
I believe it did say in our session planning that there would be smaller breakout groups, but I didn't know what to expect. So I kind of went into it with an open mind and like, let's see how it works. And everybody had great input, and again, just a great opportunity for us to brainstorm a little deeper into the.
Excellent. And that's, I think, what the primary reason. The reason I asked is that I've only done a couple sessions that have the breakouts. We found on evaluation either people love it or hate it. And so what we've started to do, and if we're going to have an event that has breakouts, we put it on there. So someone who doesn't want to do breakouts just knows right up front that they're going to happen. So we have found that as a helpful tip, is telling people there's going to be breakout rooms. And that has kind of solved some of the issues of some of the people being big negative, or they decide not to join the training. So the breakout, it sounds like having a traffic controller behind to make sure everybody gets where they need to go is important. It sounds like having a facilitator and some planned discussion for the breakout rooms, letting people know ahead of time breakout rooms are helpful. Any other tips on doing breakout rooms that anybody would like to add? It sounds like a really good strategy when you have a bigger group, right? So let's move on to question 4. This is how you interact with colleagues. And it looks like it's pretty much, you guys are virtual or digital. Trisha, do you have any comments about what you're seeing here in terms of results?
Sorry, I was looking at the chat there, trying to help you repeat that.
What's your thoughts about what you're seeing for question 4 in terms of how people are responding?
And I can't see question 4.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can just repeat it.
Can you scroll down and find the results on your screen?
What methods do I interact with colleagues?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the colleague one, we definitely do virtual meetings, staff meetings, and it has also helped as far as being a regional ADRC and having staff in different locations. So again, that drive time, saving time, that's also been helpful. As far as colleagues though, for the most part, we've gotten back in person. So we're chatting together in person or by email has usually been our way of combining it. And
anybody else have any comments about this question? Kind of what everybody kind of expected for results?
I would say too, as far as like dementia friendly community training and stuff, that's also been helpful. So recently I just had a police chief contact me about doing some training with his staff, and we set up a virtual meet, so he's up in a different county, and we can set that up and just kind of chat, but I can also share some of that information or show him some of that information right from my screen as well. So it's been helpful with other, colleagues or in that effort of making dementia friendly communities and working with other businesses.
Excellent. So we go on to the last question. And this kind of goes at, what are some of your top barriers for digital communication platforms? Meaning like the cell phone, texting, FaceTime. What are some of the biggest challenges you run into? And it looks like the biggest challenge is that clients, family, colleagues do not have the equipment or the pieces of items that are needed. I'm running neck and neck with, that was 79%, 76% says they do not have the, let's see, I can't see all of it, don't know how to use the digital communication. So they don't either have the equipment or they don't know how to use it. And that was 76%. And then 62% of the folks says, again, they don't have, okay, I'm sorry. They don't know how to use the equipment with 79%. And then I can't see all the answers here. So they don't know how to use the equipment is 79%. They don't know how to use digital communication methods is 76%. And they don't have the equipment is 62%. Poor or no broadband access is 68%, which is really high too. Kind of what we hear as the top reasons for problems, right? Anybody surprised with these results or want to make a comment on it?
Bonnie here. I'm not surprised by these results. And one of the things that we're thinking of doing with our Healthy Living with MCI series is trying to because we want to reach more people, but we have a lot of places where broadband is an issue or just general technology. Like I only know how to do it on my phone, but the screen's so small I can't like do a program. I could do a FaceTime, but so looking at seeing if we can come up with like partner sites, this is still very early stages for us, but we could still do it electronically. But then if people might want to gather in person at a partner site that would be able, that has the broadband, that can take away some of those issues. And then we can partner with more people and hopefully reach more people. But it's just in the beginning stages for us of that. But I know other people have done that and been successful to kind of skirt those issues.
So would that be like maybe a library that maybe has access, or maybe the ADRC may have a classroom that they could have those type of things, or even like your school, if you're in a smaller community that could?
Yeah, so we've been thinking about libraries, clinics, ADRC is, and maybe if there's like a tech school, they usually have the technology. So just who are our community partners that we already have relationships with, and then we're thinking of doing just like a pilot with like a couple places and seeing what it's like, so we can work out the kinks to make it hopefully something that we could do in more sites than maybe just one or two.
Excellent, good point.
So I just see in the chat too, Karen mentions that she's partnered with area libraries for other programs. Karen, did you want to expand on that as far as what other programs and were they successful or how did it go?
Sure. I'm Karen. I'm with University of Wisconsin Madison Extension in Outagamie County. And so we did something last year called Inside Outagamie. So it was making contact with the libraries for a variety of programs. One is with our Home Community Education Association. And Yale Public Library in Seymour was very receptive to that. They have a meeting room, they have library, checks out computers as well. So people that didn't know how to use the computers came in, they were trained how to use it. Plus the librarian sat in on some of the programs and she gave us ideas for other programs. So, you know, we've explored that with some of our other libraries to see what's possible, but those are local nucleus kinds of places that people feel comfortable in driving to rather than coming to Appleton for a program. So hopefully we can expand that in the future for a lot of other kinds of support programs. Thank you.
That's an excellent tip and example of how the collaboration is really helpful. I am going to stop talking and turn it back to you, Trisha, so you can continue to do what you need to do.
No, this is great. We'll just kind of go through the chat. So again, something else, right? Why we like to have two facilitators is I'm talking or chatting, and then what's going on in the chat. So wonder if, Kathy says, wonder if it could be a dementia-friendly business ask. So to actually, Kathy, you want to expand on that more, like to actually host something at their business?
Yeah, or if it was just that somebody was able to use their conference room and access those facilities with, I mean, it could be really basic, right? It's an insurance agency that has a private conference room that says, yeah, you can, you know, you're from my town, you can come in and do this at this hour or whatever. I don't know, could be cool.
That's a great idea. I love that. So yes. And I think that's such great thinking outside the box of who your partners can be and who you can collaborate with. So it's really good. And then Kathy said, the senior centers in Milwaukee have a tech person weekly to assist with problems and learning. That's awesome. Yeah. And then Jeff says, we have occasionally collaborated with senior centers and facilities to create group watch parties for education programs. Jeff, how have those gone? I mean, do people tend to enjoy those, being able to come in person, but then watch something that is virtual?
It seems to work, Trisha. We haven't done too many of them. And it's hard because it's so rare that people give feedback sometimes on the education programs. I don't know if other people have experienced that, but you know, it's crickets out there.
Yes. Yeah, no, these are all really great ideas. And again, just kind of listening and learning more. So that's what we kind of hoped this session would be too, is this is just one experience for myself, but I know there's so much more out there. And then again, more tips and techniques that are out there. So these are all good. I know in the future, we're also looking at, you know, smart TVs that have access to the internet. So much has, you know, exploded since 2020 of what's out there. So when we think of like respite or adult day programs, being able to connect in virtually to a memory cafe on a big screen or some physical activity, et cetera. So there's just a lot that can be incorporated. And I think it is definitely the way of the future, is to combine, incorporate. It won't definitely go away. It's going to be kind of a new thing that we'll adjust to. And I'm sure there will be even more changes. When I heard Facebook was looking at a whole, you know, meta, I imagine in the future that there might be, you know, stands in each room, and then I plug myself in and my virtual outline comes right into the room and I'm able to offer something in person or do a home visit that way. So Randy also stated that UW Whitewater is looking to create an informational technology center for older adults to assist them with technology. That's awesome. Yeah. And I think there are programs out there, you know, and again, it's that grant writing or the funding for that. So that's great. And Karen says, with the program we did yesterday, we had an assisted living site tune in to our Jumpstart Your Energy program. Excellent. Yeah, that's another great point too, Karen, is that we, again, as a dementia care specialist, our trainings have been for community-based folks and then also businesses, but not with the assisted livings and nursing homes. So again, we've opened our virtual dementia education programs to anyone. Anyone can join from anywhere. The Twin Cities, if you work in an assisted living and you want to take, glean pieces from that. So that's been another thing. Did you want to say something or add to that? Okay, just looking at you. It's nice to see your face. So I will come back to share my screen too. And all right, there it is. The other thing that I did want to say, I think most of us on this call might know, but there is the whole broadband, access to that, which I know the state of Wisconsin is working on. But we also have an affordable connectivity program that recently got extended or expanded out of that pandemic crisis, which provides like a $30 supplement for older adult or for people who qualify income wise to help supplement for internet. And then on tribal lands, $75 a month as well. So that's also something that will help towards making equitable access, I think, for everyone too, as we move forward. All right. So I guess this was really the end of my presentation, except for one short video at the end, but were there any other questions that I could answer for you? Or anything that you want to share that was a success or a good lesson learned type thing that you would share with all of us that we could take from this? All right. So if not, hearing none, I will play this, Laurel and Hardy, the end of every Zoom meeting, or fill it in with WebEx, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, etc. Here we go. This should sound familiar.
Well, goodbye. 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 Enjoy yourself. Bye. Goodbye. 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 Bye. Well, goodbye. 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 Goodbye.
So I will stop my share. That's the end of my presentation.
I do have a few wrap up housekeeping details, but I first want to tell you, Trisha, thank you so much for graciously doing this and doing such an awesome job. You really brought some excellent discussion and some really good tips and ideas. I'm very excited about the world we've now are entering and what the things that are possible. So thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
I have just a couple of closing slides I have to like to share if I could. And see if my PowerPoint, are you seeing my PowerPoint? Oops. Okay. So I was asked to make sure everybody was aware of the Wisconsin Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. It actually has a book club. It's called the Mind Readers Book Club. And the upcoming book that I'm going to be discussing on March 23rd is exceptionally interesting, at least in my book. And I've got a little note I wrote down here. I want to make sure I read it correctly. So this book is about Henrietta. She was a poor Black tobacco farmer whose cells were taken from her without her knowledge. They became the most important tools in medicine, and it looks like they were important in terms of developing the polio vaccine, cloning, gene mapping, in vitro fertilization, and many more. Henrietta's cells have been bought and sold by billions, yet she's unknown virtually to anybody. So it sounds like a fascinating book. And so on the bottom, and I did put in the chat, the ADRC website link. So if you're interested in joining that, it sounds like a phenomenal event to participate in. And then I also wanted to mention we have 2 additional events coming up, one on Thursday, May 19th. It's going to be Riding in the Moment. It's an equestrian program that we're going to be featuring. And then on Thursday, June 9th, Faith in Action, Neighborhood to Neighborhood will be the topic of the webinar. And the last bit of business is I did put in the chat an evaluation survey. It's helpful to get feedback on how things are going, what you thought of the eval, but also input on terms of things that would be helpful and value add for you in terms of for us to do. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, see if anybody has any parting words. And I also, again, thank you, Trisha, for just a phenomenal job. Bonnie?
Hey, I feel like all I do is talk here. Thanks so much for an awesome presentation and discussion. I love hearing everybody's ideas and struggles too, right? Like it can feel really isolating when you're trying to figure this out. We do have an upcoming Healthy Living with MCI event, and I just put the information in the chat. And so that's 2 days after the book discussion, so on March 25th. And the topic is how to practice self-care during a pandemic. And so we'll have Dr. Art Walasak joining us with Dr. Nathaniel Chin. And we're also going to try to have some interactive discussion and some activities planned for people. So please feel free to join in. And Jody, I'll send you the flyer so you could share it.
Sounds good. And if you want to, the one registration is open for Riding the Moment if you want to do that. Anybody, any other comments or questions people have? Do you think a follow-up to this would be helpful? Like say in a year to where we're at?
Yes, definitely. I was going to write a chat to that effect because I think we're going to go through a tough time in the next few months. Transitioning to what? We're not sure. Hybrid, face-to-face. I mean, we've got client groups that we're reaching that we never reached before. And if we just go back face-to-face, we'll lose them. But we also don't have an unlimited amount of time. And so how we do all the things we used to do, as Trisha was talking about, and then try to do this is very, very hard. And I think hybrid's going to be tough. So it would be great to meet in 9 to 12 months and talk about how we've managed this.
I kind of got that thought. That's why I asked that too. And it just occurred to me, when we were trying to think about doing hybrid for our spring events for our network, I actually went on YouTube and searched, and I did find a video where in teaching, where you have a laptop and a screen, a smart TV, and you just get a camera and you can do the hybrid and he walks you through it. I obviously didn't go back to it when we decided to stay virtual because we weren't able to do anything in person, but YouTube actually had some resources too, if you want to go on there in terms of how to do, the teaching world has been doing it. Okay, any final words, Trisha?
No, thank you all for being gracious with us. I would just say that doing this presentation, I was putting it together through this last week. And as I started to put it together, probably every technology thing went wrong that I could think of. And I thought, why am I doing this presentation? So thanks again, just for listening to kind of just my experience. And thank you all for sharing your experiences and the tips that you've learned along the way. And I think, Jeff, I would agree with you. I'm just as interested to see 9 months from now, you know, a year from now, where we're at and all the other great stuff that we've picked up from there. And I love that somebody put in the chat that even in person, I will start waving. So I agree. I don't leave anywhere now without just bye everyone, see ya. Wait till everyone gets off.
Yes, it's a hand gesture that has been rose to the top, right? That and the fist bumping.
Yeah.
Or the elbows. So, well, have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you for participating. Hopefully this was value add to you. And as we all say, let's all wave goodbye. Everybody's on camera. Awesome.
See you later.